Hey everybody, Noel here again at the Low Country Rolfing. I'm here to take you through a little bit of a mobility and stretch sequence tailored to the arms. I like to call this rolling up your sleeves, in other words. So we're going to be working everything from the hand on up to the shoulder girdle and seeing how we can loosen things up there to help improve our range of motion, and especially in the upper body. Okay. So all we're going to get started with right now is we're going to make sure we have some equipment. I have an assortment of massage balls here. We might be using something like a high density foam ball, but if you don't have one, that's okay too. You could easily use a tennis ball for a lot of these techniques, a lacrosse ball, and also a golf ball if you have one of those. And then we might be using the foam rollers a little bit, but we'll just kind of play it by ear as we go along. We're going to start out with the hands though. We're just going to work on just moving the fingers out and stretching them out. So we're getting right into it. And just seeing how that translates into the tissue of your palm, and up into your wrist, and up into your forearm. Let's give those fingers a little stretch. Move them around a little bit. Do circles with the wrist. And just notice, get an assessment of where you're at right now. Add your elbows into the picture and start doing pronation, which is turning your palms down, and supination in the forms, which is turning your palms up, and noticing what that does for you. Have you noticed any interesting pulls in your elbows or in your shoulders? Again, the hands and wrists, then add more of a shoulder into it, going into flexion and extension. Move it around. All right, and this kind of get an idea of what feels restricted. So we're going to start working our way up from the palms up to the shoulders. For this, we're probably going to need a lacrosse ball or something with a little bit of density, more so than a tennis ball. And what we're going to do first is we're going to get an assessment of our mobility in our wrist by turning our fingers inward towards our bodies. You can rest either on your toes or down on your shins. I like to press the toes down so I'm getting a little bit of action in the feet as well. And we're going to lean our body weight back, keeping the heels of the hands down and the fingers stretched out. You don't want to roll up enough to where your wrists pop up or that your fingers start to cinch up. You want to stay connected with the spaces between your knuckles as you sit back. And keep opening up the eyes, your elbows forward in front of you. And again, just notice where you're at right now. You might not be going a whole lot before you feel the stretch. So let's start with the left hand. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the lacrosse ball, set it on the ground, and just like we do a roll on the feet, we're just going to do the same thing with our hands. Stretch your fingers out and apply pressure downward against the ball, but really focusing on loosening up the tissue that makes up the web of your hand. Getting that more space. Playing around the edges of the palm, going in the spaces between your carpal bones, or your metacarpals, I should say, the long bones of your hand. And the space, especially between the thumb and index finger, can be pretty sensitive on a lot of folks because we pinch down with our thumb and our index finger a lot in order to grasp things or text or hold our phones. But don't neglect the other parts of your hand. If you found a place that's pretty tender, hang out there, take a few breaths. Notice the tissue soften. And after you're done with this, spending about 30 to 60 seconds rolling it out, let it rest, and rest both your hands down the mat. And just notice how they feel in relation to one another. Right now, my left palm feels like it's really connecting with the ground. I mean, it's like a pancake just melting into the floor. My right hand's still popping up a little bit. And especially my left hand too, I'm getting a little bit more of a feeling like I can wiggle more of my bones in that bag of a hand than I have, as opposed to here where I don't have as much bag, it feels like. So let's do the opposite side. Again, you're going to take the lacrosse ball, and same thing, the lacrosse ball is too much, you can line it up with a tennis ball, but usually something pretty hard is going to get into that tissue a lot better than something softer. And you can always back up, taking weight out of the hand if you need it. But hands are pretty tough. They're like your feet, the soles of your feet. They can handle quite a good amount of pressure. Same way, we're just working and focusing just on the back of the hand. Not so much the muscles or the bones or joints, just think about that bag or the glove that overlaps your palm and your fingers and the back of your hand and slides over your wrist. A glove made of connective tissue. And again, you found a place that feels pretty sensitive. Hang out there for a little bit. Add a little bit more pressure. But stay with your breath. Stay relaxed. Stay mindful of what you're doing. Spend a couple more moments here. That's it. Nice hot pocket here. Again, between the thumb and index finger. More so in your dominant hand than your non-dominant hand. And I associate this with, again, texting a lot more than anything else. And let that go. Place your hand on the floor. And again, with your left hand, just notice if your right palm feels a little more accessible. Connecting with the ground a little bit. Good. All right. Let's go back into that wrist stretch. Fingers in, wrist out, and lean back. You might notice that the tension in your hands is less. You're still noticing quite a bit in your forearms and wrists. So we're going to head up there next. And how we're going to work with that is we're going to use our own forearm as a tool. You can use your shin too, but I recommend using the forearm first. Just you have a little bit more control with the arm. And I'm going to start on my right side. So from here, I'm going to expose the tissue of my forearm. So it's just laying there ready to be massaged. And then I'm going to take my left forearm and let it rest into the meat of that tissue. And I'm thinking about taking all the forearm flexors and just moving them to the side in an oblique angle, and getting them to lengthen away from my elbow. Kind of pushing the arm further into supination, rolling it and smushing it at the same time. And do that with your forearm, the ulnar edge of your elbow. Wiggle your fingers around a little bit, stretch your hand out while you're doing this. You can flex and extend. Play around with different motions. And if it's not quite working for you to reach across, you got more chest than most people are going to do is going to take the shin, same way. Rest on top, be gentle with this because it's a lot of weight to put on your forearm. And again, just think about going up and away. Moving the hand around a little bit. Not going to, crush your arm, but just to give it a little bit of a smushing, like you're stretching a glove out that's resting on your arm. And then when you're done with that, come all the way to the wrist and shake it out. So we'll go back into the wrist stretch just to see if anything has shifted. And it's shifted quite a bit, especially on my right side. My left side wants to pop up a lot more so than my right. This is a little bit more easy for me, or easier. So let's do the same thing on the left side. Now it's just a little bit of smooshing. It was only about 30 seconds. So we're going to do the same thing on the left arm. You're going to take your right forearm, resting on top. I like to use the edge of my elbow. It might be different for your body. Let's start there and see if it works. Back around with stretching and flexing, extending, maybe even rolling. If you roll and turn your forearm up and out, it will feel a little, the sensation will get a little bit more intense because you're pushing the muscle directly into your bone. So lighten up when you do that. And once again, if you feel like you can't quite get it with your forearm, use your shin or just below your knee. And give it some more smushing. Smush, smush, smush. But smush in a loving way here. And shake that out. All right, fingers in, wrist out, sit back again. Yeah, got a little bit more there, but there's still work to do. Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit of a PNF stretch here. And the setup is going to be kind of tricky at first, but once you get it, it's easy. You're going to slide onto your hip, so rest your legs to one side. And we're going to start on our left hand. You're going to place it with the fingers in towards you. Okay, if that's not quite accessible, you can have your fingers up, that's fine too. Or sit up a little bit taller so you can get that palm flat. Okay, and the idea here is from whatever position you get started in, you're going to slide the shin that's closest to the wrist against the hand. And the weight of the outer edge of the ankle is going to weigh the knuckles down and keep the hand from rolling up. Okay, and you can bring the other leg up to support yourself or keep it out to the side, whatever is more comfortable for your body. And all we're going to do is keep the hand trapped with the foot and then lean back, but try to keep the palm of the hand down on the ground. This may even translate into a little bit of work for the shoulder as you lean back to that edge where you feel it's not too much, but it's not too little either. It's just enough. Take some deep breaths. And then when you're ready, we're going to contract the muscles by thinking about, with this hand that's on the ground, you're going to think about clawing the ground and pulling it away from you. So you're flexing your fingertips, you're flexing your palm as if you're doing this to the ground, flicking it away. So your muscles tense up along the forearm and wrist for 5, 4, 3, 2, take a breath in. And then when you exhale, relax those muscles, soften your belly, and just sit back a little bit more. Find your breath. And then slowly come out of it. Good. And your hand and wrist may be numb, so give it a little time. Give it a little friction, get the blood back in there, circulating. Shake it out. Okay, it's going to feel kind of weird, but the sensation will come back to you. And if you want to test the waters again, just to see how that landed for your body, go back into the wrist stretch, reassess. And then we'll just do the same thing on the other side. So you're going to rest on your left side, legs out to the side. And then from here, right hand down, and then slide your left shin against it. And keep the wrist trapped. Okay? Spread your fingers out wide, palm down, lean back till you feel the pull, which may not be a whole lot. And breathe. And again, we'll contract by flexing the finger pads, flexing the palm. For 5, 4, 3, 2, breath in. And then exhale, soften, let yourself go back. And slowly return. And slide your hand out from underneath you. Shake it out. Coming back to your wrist stretch. One more time. Whew. A lot better than when we started, huh? So let's integrate that into some strengthening, especially for the forearm, and then we'll get into more of the extensors and into the triceps. So for the wrist strengthening part here, you're gonna rest in tabletop position, and the more underneath your knees are, the more your knees are underneath you, the easier this will be, and the further back behind you, the harder this is going to be, because you're going to be relying on basically your whole body here, and relying on your first knuckle area. What you'll need to do, what we'll be doing, is you'll be pushing into your first knuckles. And then from there, you're going to lift your palms up without your fingers coming up. Okay? And then lowering back down. It's a really subtle movement, but it's a really strong movement. You'll feel this probably in your wrists and all the way up into your elbows as you just lift and lower with the palms. So add weight to it if you like. And lower down. Take it up. And lower down. Take it up. Try to keep your elbows locked. And lower down. It's already burning for me to take it up. And lower down. Pull it up. Lower down. Pull it up. Lower down. Pull it up. Lower down, a few more. Pull it up. Lower down. Pull it up. Lower down, one more time. Pull it up. And lower down. Bring your knees underneath you. Shake it out. Whew. And your forearms all the way up from your wrist, moving into your finger pads, should be pretty well lit up. So we're going to get into the back of the wrist now. We're going to start with an extensor stretch. All we're going to do there is place the backs of the hands into the mat. Okay? Again, use as much of your legs underneath you as you need. And then think about straightening through your elbows. This may already be enough for you. And go side to side. Start mobilizing to see where you're at. So we're going to work one at a time. So let's start with the right side. What we're going to do is similar to what we did before. You're going to trap the wrist down in a way that's comfortable. Maybe turn out about 45 degrees or in towards you, whatever angle is really going to give you that sensation of stretch all the way up into your back of your elbow. And then from there, leaning back, keep the fingers spread wide so it takes a little more pressure off of the carpal tunnel. And then from there, what you're going to do is you're going to extend the hand as if you're going to pull the back of the hand forward, but you're holding yourself in place. For 5, 4, 3, 2, breath in, In and exhale. Let that wrist rest. Let your elbow come back a little bit more. And we'll do this one more time. Pulling up for 5, 4, 3, 2. Breath in. And then exhale. Let it come back a little bit more. Lengthen through your elbow joint. And then slowly roll up. Shake it out. Couple of circles. Just notice where you're at side to side here. Okay, other side. Same way. Fingers in. Elbow out to the elbow kind of up and forward. And then try to lengthen through your elbow. Lean back till you feel the stretch. It might not be a whole lot before you do that. Before you notice it. And then begin pushing the back of the hand into the mat. Spread your fingers out wide. 5, 4, 3, 2, breath in. And then relax. And then one more time, pushing the back of the hand into the mat. 5, 4, 3, 2, breath in. And then exhale. Let's think about lengthening the back of the wrist. And slowly come out of it. Shake it out. Ooh. And if this is a little uncomfortable to have your wrist at that angle and putting weight on the ground, same thing you could do with just your hand and pushing your wrist into some extension, or flexion I should say, sorry. Pushing your hand down, pulling it up, and trying to go into a little more flexion. Okay? Shaking it out, let's come back to that point where we're loading up the wrist, the fingers turn in towards one another. Okay, and again, just shift your weight side to side and see if you notice things are a little different. You got a little more mobility there. And then slowly release. Great. Next up, running up from the forearm, more up into the biceps and triceps. So to get an idea about how this area is, we're just going to play around with flexing and extending the elbow, as well as working on pronating and supinating our forearms. Just notice what you feel left to right here. So we're going to start working on getting more of a long line on the front of the arm and more spaciousness by working on the bicep and into the brachioradialis here. So starting with the bicep, what you're going to do is really simple. We're just going to pinch the bicep and lengthen. So we're going to do a hook and stretch. That's what it's often referred to as. So pick a bicep that you want to work on, either left or right. Pull it in. Start by pinching the meat of it to where you can feel that muscle. So you're going to flex your elbows so that muscle kind of pops into your fingers. And you can use a pincher grasp, so making like a C with your fingers. Put that muscle in there, and then as you lengthen, keep squeezing. Don't let that change, but let the length of your forearm change by letting it straighten it out and turn down. And you'll notice that the tissue in between your fingers starts to roll out of it. And then finish that pinch. Give it a nice stretch on your skin. And then work in another area. So you can go lower, closer to your forearm, get right on that tendon of your biceps, or go higher and work that area. You don't have to press super hard, just enough to where you're connecting with the meat of the muscle. Good. Moving on to the other side, same thing. Flex, keep the muscle, try to keep the arm relaxed, but go ahead and flex it, and then pinch down. Slowly straighten your arm out and turn palm down. Taking your time. Moving down low again. Well, it feels complete. Again, play around with turning. Notice that things are a little different, which they may be. All right, now we're going to get into the triceps. And for this, we're going to have to use our tools again. So I added a lacrosse ball. I'm going to go ahead and use the tennis ball for this because it's a little softer. And then back here in the tricep, you can get really exposed, and even in the bicep, you can get really exposed to your nerves there in your upper arm. So it's nice to have a softer surface that has a little more give to it. For our assessment, what we're going to do is just an overhead tricep stretch. So taking your right hand, we're going to start there, reach up, and then bring your right elbow above your head. Use your left hand to help pull the elbow up a little bit higher so the elbow is almost like a crown in your head pointing directly upwards. And then take the right hand and let it rest down towards the nape of your neck. And see if you can get the hand to slide down in between your shoulder blades. Keep the chest lifted, the back of the head's pressing against the arm. And then slowly release. Okay, so how we're going to do this is we're going to lay on our backs with the tennis ball in hand. So the trick to this, laying on your back. So the trick to this is setting the ball in position. And all you'll need to do is just let the ball rest on the ground. If it has a tendency to slide, you can put a blanket under there to keep it from sliding a little bit more. I'm going to put it on my yoga mat so it has a little less tendency to slide around as opposed to the wood floor. And I'm going to rest the back of my arm, my tricep, basically right above my elbow, my tricep region, on the ball. And it's just I'm just letting it relax over there. I might feel some tenderness around that muscular area, okay, because it's pretty sensitive from all the pushing and compression that we do all day, or I do. And then from there, we're going to just play around, letting the elbow extend. Let's think about hyperextending the elbow is by allowing the hand to be weighted and going down towards the ground, but your elbow is blocked by the ball. And you might feel some twitching or tenderness in the area where the ball is. Let that happen. Just breathe into it. If you need to soften and bend your elbow, you can do that. Or give your arm a little turn by rotating your upper arm to the outside or to the inside, adjusting where needed. So I'm going to keep moving my hips around. I might move it to the side. I might move them down, just to stay connected with where I'm working here. Move your hand around, noticing what this does for your tricep region. That's a little pocket of tenderness here. So if you found something that's pretty sensitive, take deep breaths. Try to give more of your weight to the ball, as if there was no ball there. You're just laying your arm on the ground. Just lengthening my legs so I have a little more access to pulling down. Ooh, it's pretty tender for myself. I don't know about you guys. So I'm just trying to find my breath, stay light. Stay in control of the situation. As it gets higher, the sensation may change. You may have to turn your arm a little bit more to get into different areas in the muscle belly. I'm just working my way up. all the way to the upper arm, just behind the shoulder. Good. And let that be complete. So just roll off nice and easy. And then roll to your side. Push back up to your kneeling position to where you can do the tricep stretch. And again, right elbow above your head. Pull it down and back. And just notice if that sensation has changed for you. The arm feels looser, in my case, but still some work to do in the shoulders, which we'll get into, but not before the left arm. So taking the left arm up and over your head, pull down the right, keep your head and chin lifted so you're getting a little bit more of a stretch, not just in the tricep, but also into the lats and into the ribs. And then release. Okay, so back to your back. Make sure your ball's handy. Place it just above your elbow. Let yourself recline and breathe. Keeping more of the crook of your elbow up towards the ceiling. Playing around with motions in the wrist and the hand, the forearm, and then your elbow. Breathing deep. Keep rolling on it. Moving your weight up higher to triceps. Playing around with flexion and extension. Relaxing. So let your arm be gooey. And then slowly make your way out of it. Come back to your knees. Shake it out. Left arm up, elbow down, and pull it into a stretch. So you might notice that the arm feels a lot freer, especially around the region between elbow to your wrist and elbow to your upper arm. And all that's kind of left here is we're going to work a little bit more on the front side of the shoulder, into the deltoid, and maybe even a little bit into the pecs. Okay? So for that, what we're going to be doing is we're going to get on the floor, on our bellies. Make sure your ball's close by. And then for our assessment, we're going to go into a scorpion position, meaning your hands are wide, making a T or a field goal with your arms, and then rolling to one side, but just rolling on the one hip, and there like flop over to back, and then switch. And switch. Just get an idea of where you're at side to side here. So we're going to get started on the left. Grab your tennis ball and you're going to place it underneath the shoulder. Now it might be a little challenging to get all the way onto the ground and get the ball in place, so feel free to use your other hand, your free hand, to help keep it in place. This is also a nice opportunity to use something a little bit larger, such as this about 5-inch foam ball, and resting down. Or if you don't have that, then you have some sort of way to elevate the ball. You can use a cushion, you can use a blanket, and in my case, I'm going to use a blanket. Fold it up. I'm going to place it at an angle so my chest can lay over it. I got the ball set up with my other hand, And I'm going to start pretty high up into the deltoid region, okay, and upper pec region. And then from there, you're just going to roll to the side a little bit by turning your head the opposite direction, but let your arms straighten out. Play around with some motions till you find a point of sensation. And then take breaths. Couple more. Just working your way up. So bringing the ball closer to the head of your shoulder. Use your free hand to help keep it in place if you need to. And all you're doing is just giving you something to lean on. And lean on it and turn away from it. Slowly make your way out. Push back up. So that was our left side. We're going to stretch up tall again. Pull back into that stretch, and you might have a little bit more access, especially up here in this region in your shoulders as you pull around. And this motion may also be a little bit more accessible to you, reaching behind and up towards your neck, because eventually we're going to go to this. Okay, so let's do the opposite side. Again, I'm going to turn my balls up on something in at an angle, and then use my free hand to help set it in place. And then let my arm extend out to the side, and whenever you got your anchor, you're leaning down on it. You're going to rotate your head and neck to the opposite direction, but keep your chest open towards the side of the ball, stretching. Making adjustments as needed. Moving it up a little higher on my shoulder in my case. And then if you're not quite feeling it too, you can always just turn your arm in a little bit or turn it out until you get into a little pocket of sensation. Whew, there we are. Deep breaths. We're going to slowly make your way out. I could spend a few more days there, but we got to keep this moving. So, come on back up to your knees, shaking it out. Wiggle your shoulders around, take the right arm up, and then bring it down into a stretch. And probably got a lot more access to this motion, taking it behind you. It might feel a little bit better than it usually does too. Okay, so now we're going to go into the over-under stretch, meaning we're going to take one arm over and one arm under and try to touch the hands together in the back. Okay. Getting an idea of where you're at right there. Now you might not already be there, so this is where we have the strap that comes in handy. We're going to start by taking the left arm over top, pulling it down, and right arm underneath, and bring it up. To begin with this, try to reach out your arms, get them nice and long, go into a little extension in the mid-back, and then over and around, under and up. You can walk your hands together. Great, hang out there. If not, take the strap, loop it over your top arm, or give yourself an end to go down into. Bring your elbow up and around. Head your hand back. And just work your hands closer together as you feel things lift and shift. We can pull up a little bit on the bottom arm if that's a little tight. Then you can pull down a little bit on the upper arm if that's tight. A few more breaths. Keep the extension in the mid-back, looking up. And then slowly release. Shake your arms out. And then we're going to go into the opposite side. Okay, so we did the right arm underneath, left arm on top. We're going to do right arm on top, left arm underneath. Starting up, get them nice and wide. Think about arms are stretching out of your torso. Up with your right arm, down with your left arm. And then back together again. Try to wiggle them together. Go into extension. Until you can get your fingers locked. And hang out. Again, straps an option if you need that. Couple more breaths. And slowly release. Shaking it out. Whew. All right. Last little bit here. We're going to do with our arms, we're going to bring them forward now, going into eagle arms. So again, stretching your arms out nice and wide. And then bring your right arm underneath your left. Right elbow underneath your left, I should say. Wrap them nice and tight, and then pull right back to the right hand back to the left hand back. Then you can press your palms together. If you're not quite getting palms or knuckles together, just wrap and then go for a little bit of a bind. Let's see if you can get a twist. Rest easy. And when you feel comfortable with this, you can stay here and just let things relax or go up and down. Think about flossing out the space of your shoulder girdle. Getting the scapula to move. Inhale up. Exhale down. And then slowly release, shake it out. Do the same thing on the opposite side. So left elbow underneath right elbow. Wrap them together. Pull them tight. Keep a lift in your torso. Up and down. Or hang out here. And slowly let that unwind. Alright. How are we feeling? Pretty good? Great. Let's finish it up on our backs. And we're going to get into the rhomboids. Those muscles back there that allow you to retract the shoulder blade, but they also can inhibit you from protracting. You may have experienced that with eagle arms a little bit. So what you're going to do, just grab your tennis ball or cross ball, and you're going to place it underneath the space between your shoulder blade and your spine. Think about that medial border of your shoulder blade. You really want to be right there. As you roll back and give your weight to the ball. It might already feel pretty sensitive. So if not, also you can just shift around a little bit till you get to that point. Usually you'll be able to find some sensation here. And once you got a nice pocket where it feels pretty tender, like a good massage, take your right arm and lift it up, and think about lifting through your elbow, like a string's pulling your elbow up towards the ceiling. And then use your left hand to hold that in place. And begin working your elbow around, drawing little circles, or going counterclockwise, or doing little infinity symbols, making alphabet letters. Just move it around. And again, wherever you feel like there's a significant change in sensation, hang out there for a moment. Breathe for a few cycles. Continue with this, or let your arm extend and just take it into much longer, broader motions. Really reaching around and exploring the space into which you can reach your arm. Making adjustments where needed. Whew. Eventually finishing this roll up. Rolling off to your side. So you can bring the ball out from underneath you. Just take a moment to rest on your back and feel your arms side to side here. Maybe reach out with your right arm when you just roll and play around with it. Same thing for left. And just notice if things are a little different. You might have a little more access with protraction in your right arm than you do with your left for obvious reasons. So let's balance it out. How we're going to do that, again with the ball. Roll to your side so you can place the ball underneath you, just between the medial border of your scapula and your spine. Whew. And already I'm in a hot spot here, so I'm going to hang out and breathe. Did a lot of pull-ups and rows yesterday, so this area is significantly lit up. Feeling it. And if you feel like you want a little bit more, again, move your elbow around, get some motion, turn your head in the opposite direction. And maybe even take your whole arm into the picture. All the way to your fingertips. Hanging out at areas of significant sensation. Feels like a good, effective spot for it to be on. I say effective because you don't want it to be painful, but you do want it doing something. So as long as you're aware of how this is helping you and where you're noticing the increase in intensity and that the intensity is subsiding as you're doing it, then you're okay. If the pain increases and keeps on increasing and you're just hitting a brick wall, roll off of it or lighten up. Use a different tool or use a different method. Continue exploring. And finishing up your roll. And just rolling to your side. Getting the ball out from underneath you. then resting onto your back again. Reaching up, playing around with your arms. You might notice a little bit of a balance between the two now. Give your fingers a little pull. Knuckles stretched. Switch your grip. Reach your arms up overhead, reach your toes down. Lengthen your arms away from your ribs. And then let them hang loose and down at your sides. Take a few breaths on your back, allowing your shoulders to be heavy and feeling the weight of your shoulder blades on the mat or on the ground. And wiggle around, start to roll to your side. Push back up to kneeling. Stay light on your arms. Keep wiggling around, keep shaking them around, and let them hang loose, right? So as you continue on throughout the rest of the day, you might find yourself just with a tendency to want to just give them a shake and do so. Just keep them loose for the remainder of the day. Probably not, don't do too much to load them up, and see how they feel. All right, thank you guys for joining in the practice today. If you like it, please comment, give it a thumbs up, and also let me know if you have any topics that you're particularly interested in as far as what we did today.